Has someone ever made you wonder if they liked you without ever actually saying it? You notice things, little things, the way they show up, the way they linger, the way a normal conversation suddenly feels different. But you talk yourself out of every single one because nobody ever actually told you anything. Here's what most people get wrong. They wait for words, a confession, a clear sign, something spoken out loud before they let themselves believe it. But words are the last thing that happens. Long before someone admits how they feel, they do something else first, something almost nobody notices in the moment, even though it's the clearest signal there is. And by the way, there's one specific thing people always do before they ever risk saying it out loud. We'll get to that one last, and once you see it, you'll never miss it again. Let's start with the first thing most people notice, even if they don't realize what it actually means. 1. They pay you a specific kind of attention. Do they check in more than they need to? Text first more often than feels random on days when nothing in particular happened? Most people read that as friendliness. Sometimes it is, but attention has a pattern when it's romantic, and that pattern is consistency, not intensity. One nice text means almost nothing on its own. Showing up the same way again and again, without ever being asked to, means something completely different from a one-time kindness. Think about that for a second. Attraction doesn't usually look dramatic. It looks like someone quietly choosing you over and over, in small ways you could almost overlook if you weren't paying close attention to the pattern itself. So don't wait for one big gesture that proves anything definitively. Look instead at what they keep doing, consistently, even when there's no real reason left to keep doing it. And by the way, there's one thing people always do before they ever say how they feel. We'll get to it at the very end. 2. Their eyes find yours more than they should. Have you ever felt like someone was looking at you a little too long, in a way that felt different from normal conversation? You're not imagining it. There's actual research on this. Harvard psychologist Zick Rubin studied couples and found something specific. People who were genuinely in love held eye contact about 75% of the time they spent talking. Everyone else, in ordinary conversation, only managed somewhere between 30 and 60%. That's not a small gap. That's a completely different way of looking at someone. Here's why it matters. Eye contact takes effort. It's vulnerable. Most people glance away out of habit, out of mild discomfort, out of nothing in particular at all. So when someone consistently doesn't look away, that's not habit. That's a choice their body is making before their mouth ever catches up to it. So next time you're talking to someone, notice how long they actually hold your gaze and how often they look away first compared to you. And hey, if this is making you think about someone specific right now, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us reach more people who actually want to understand what's happening around them. 3. They ask questions they don't need the answer to. Do they ask you things that don't really matter? Your favorite food, your weekend plans, small things with no real purpose behind them at all? Most people think small talk is just small talk. It usually isn't. Asking questions is one of the easiest ways to keep someone talking without saying anything revealing about yourself in return. It feels safe. It also happens to be one of the most reliable ways people build closeness without ever admitting they want to. The questions themselves rarely matter much on their own. What matters is that they kept asking, kept the conversation alive, kept choosing not to let it end when they easily could have walked away. So the next time someone seems unusually curious about your life, your day, your opinions, notice it carefully. They're not just being polite. They're building a reason to keep talking to you, one small question at a time, almost without realizing they're doing it. 4. They check on you after the goodbye already happened. Has someone ever texted you after you'd already parted ways just to make sure you got home okay? That message costs them nothing practical. It doesn't move anything forward, and nobody would notice if they skipped it entirely. That's exactly why it matters so much. Once you've said goodbye, there's no social obligation left at all. No one's watching, no reason to follow up, except one specific reason that has nothing to do with politeness. Think about that for a second. People generally don't maintain effort once a moment is officially over, unless some part of them is still thinking about you well after it ended and the day has moved on. So pay close attention to what happens after the interaction is technically finished, after there's nothing left to perform for in front of anyone. That's exactly where people quietly stop performing and start being honest about how they actually feel, even if just for one short message. 5. They want to know what you think before anyone else's. Have you noticed someone glancing at you specifically right after they say something, almost checking your reaction first before anyone else's? Most people assume that's just confidence, or maybe showing off a little for the room. Sometimes it is. But notice who they're actually checking with in that moment. If it's always you, consistently, even in a room full of other people who could just as easily react first, that's not random at all. Here's what's really happening underneath it. They're not performing for everyone in the room. They're performing for one specific person, and quietly hoping that one person approves of what they just did or said. So if you ever feel like someone's whole energy shifts the moment they're near you, like they're suddenly trying just a little harder than usual, that's not coincidence. You're the one audience they actually care about impressing, even if they'd never admit that. 6. They start finding reasons to be alone with you. Have you noticed someone suggesting it's just the two of you more and more often lately? Group plans slowly become one-on-one plans. Help with something that didn't really need help. A reason to stay 5 more minutes after everyone else has already left. Most people miss this pattern entirely because each excuse looks small and reasonable on its own. But here's the actual pattern underneath it all. People create opportunities for the outcomes they genuinely want, even when they'd never say that out loud, including to themselves. If someone keeps quietly engineering moments alone with you, that's not just convenience. That's intention, dressed up as something casual. So if this keeps happening with someone specific again and again, stop calling it a coincidence. 7. This is the one almost nobody notices. This is the thing I mentioned at the very beginning. The one almost everyone misses because it doesn't look like a confession at all. It looks like the exact opposite of one. Before someone ever tells you how they feel, they create the closeness first. The attention, the eye contact, the questions, the check-ins, the alone time. All of it happens before a single honest word ever does, sometimes for weeks before anything is said. Think about that for a second. The silence before the confession isn't them not caring about you. It's them quietly building enough closeness that the confession finally feels survivable to say out loud, even to themselves. Most people wait around for someone to just say it, but saying it is always the last step, never the first one. The closeness comes first every single time, because closeness feels safer to risk than honesty does. So if someone has been quietly building all of this around you, piece by piece, week after week, they're not confused about how they feel. They're just more afraid of the words than they ever were of everything that came before them. The feelings were never really hidden. They were just arriving in a language that doesn't use words first. If this helped you see someone differently, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.